Hey guys, how's everyone doing today? I hope everyone's had a good week or so. This time we're doing a few things a bit differently. We're recording our podcast, and we also have a guest. And this time you guys also get to see who we are. This is me, Fahad, with the hat on, like I have it in the podcast. Art, and then we have Tahir.
I'm the funny one.
That's what he says. And then you also have our guest today, guest speaker. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Ambrose. I'm just a friend of the boys, and I'm very honored and privileged to be the first guest on Small Minds, Big World.
It's good. It's
10
good
out of 10. So yeah, we're gonna kick it off. Again, I guess we'll start it off with the same thing that we do normally. But I think first we should quickly give an introduction of how we know Ambrose and all of that, I think. What do you reckon?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Let's do that. So for me, I know Ambrose from. Did I know you from high school or not? I think I met you. I think
probably in year 7, year 8. I remember seeing you at the bus stop, like when I was like walking. Fahad's always been this goofy guy. But you know, not in a bad way, you know, like goofy as me. He's like quite entertaining and quite like welcoming, like to be around with. I think that's why I was kind of attracted to him at the start, you know, as like a friend.
I was like, I personally, I guess.
When's the first time you remember?
Yeah, I remember seeing you during university.
Yeah.
You came in. This was just first year university. All the boys used to hang out and stuff.
Yeah.
And you were close mates with Akash and stuff. So and I became friends.
Shout out to
Akash. So Akash, you'll be a guest as well at one point. So that's where I know Ambrose from. I've learned a lot from him. A lot of his experiences I've taken a lot of lessons from, and that's what we're going to be discussing today as well. But I think that he should introduce how he knows Ambrose and stuff.
So I met him in was it year 10 or 11?
From what I remember was year 12.
12?
Yeah, that's when
Nutrition?
Yeah, that's
year 12?
That's when we got kind of close. I just saw this kid at the back, like, of the class.
That's not how it happened. That's not how it happened. You were at the back with
I was at the back with Anthony.
Yeah. And then I just came in the class like, yo, I don't know anybody here.
Yeah.
I went to the back. I kind of knew Anthony, so I just sit down with you guys. Yeah. And then Anthony ended up doing his own thing with somebody else.
Yeah. And then this kid has been like next to me, and I was like, you know what, like I might as well talk to him. Yeah. And he ends up like turning out to be a very great guy. And now like we're friends for like 4 or 5 years. So you know,
man, it's been a while. That's
4 or 5 years.
Well, like that's how long we've been out from high school. Yeah.
But the thing is, I think throughout university, first year we were all kind of at this point where we just. I think, for me at least, I came from high school as someone that was just a nerd, right? Like I got decent grades in the sense that you can consider me a nerd, a nerdy looking bloke. Yeah. And then you come into university and now everyone just kind of find themselves at that point, because up till now your teachers have kind of guided you, told you to do your assignments, till you do all that stuff, and then you come into university. Now
you must have had pretty good teachers.
Oh, I did. I had great teachers. But you come into university and then you have to do your stuff yourself. You have to kind of figure out things yourself. Everyone around you has just a different personality. You have a lot of freedom. The classes don't go for 45 minutes. They go for 2 hours, and
it depends if you stay through the whole thing.
Yeah, like I just stopped going after first year. But yeah, I think at the first year I didn't really figure. I still haven't figured out who I am. I'm still learning. But I think over those years, because I graduated, right? You guys are still in university, but I think we've grown a lot, like heaps, mentally, spiritually, like physically as well. But yeah, and I think we've talked to the audience about our experiences, and we do have a lot of experiences to talk about in general. But I think to kick it off, I think we should. I had this conversation with you before bringing you to the podcast, and I said, what me and Tahir do is, we kind of reflect upon an experience and think about what we've learnt from that experience and just make that into a conversation. Because the moments when you start reflecting upon moments and you start to actually be like, okay, this is what happened. I did this. Why did I do this? You start reflecting, and then you're like, stuff. There's a deeper lesson to learn in those moments, and I think that's the beauty upon reflecting upon your experiences. I'm talking a lot right now, but I think I should give the floor to Ambrose to kind of explain that experience he had. I don't know how long ago it was, but you know, you told me what it was.
Yeah. So this experience was like quite recent. I think what I learned from this was just to not to assume things. I think that's one of my weakness is just to assume like what is gonna happen, because you just kind of like run through scenarios in your head, and when that happens, you just feel like that's like the truth, you know. So you don't really like give the opportunity to kind of ask or like to kind of like further find out if that's really the truth. So this particular scenario, what happened was to give a little bit of backstory to it, so this kind of makes sense. So me and a close friend, I kind of did him wrong once. So I got.
Should we go into that first?
No. That's. I feel like that's really important on like my thinking or like why I assumed like that scenario. So this is why I'm like just telling this first. Is basically, long story short, I got with his ex. Even though I was intoxicated, that's not an excuse. I felt very bad about it.
How did it come up? How did you end up in that situation?
Getting with his ex, just in the clubs. Yeah, just in the clubs. Intoxicated, full of lust, obviously. Yeah, so we had a talk about it afterwards. We like reflected upon it, and I was like really sorry about it because I saw how upset he was. You know, I didn't want to like, you know, get him upset again. Like I don't want this like scenario to happen ever again. So fast forward to what happened recently was he's kind of interested in this girl, and he brings this girl to like a dinner that like we've kind of all organized.
Yeah.
So we know that like he kind of likes this girl. Yeah. So we're having all dinner and stuff. And you know, the girl starts kind of like talking to me, you know, in like a friendly way, like this.
No, you're a good-looking
bloke. No. There's like nothing like sexual to it.
If your friend listens to this,
nah. But since I had that past experience with him, and I didn't want this to happen again, I just assumed that like, oh, okay, let's not like talk to her. I kind of gave her the cold shoulder, gave her like kind of one-worded answers and stuff, just to like do the best I can, just to avoid having that having that situation like happen again. And this was all based off like assumptions, and obviously this was wrong. And later I found out that she was very upset because she was just like, oh, like, you know, you've invited me to meet your friends, but none of your friends wanted to talk to me. You know, they gave me the cold shoulder and stuff. And like upon reflecting on it, it's just like these like I shouldn't have made these like assumptions.
I personally think it's okay to make assumptions because that's how our brain is, right? Like you kind of live through this life based on what you've experienced, right? You feel like you understand what this person might feel based on past experiences, right? If I do this, this is what this person might feel, and I don't want to have that situation ever happen again. And I think it's all based on what you've grown up with, what you've experienced, what you feel like someone else might feel. And that's, I think, completely normal. But I think alongside that, it's acknowledging the fact that I feel this, I think this, but to clarify those assumptions and communicate those assumptions with your mate, because he, again, in the end of the day, is your mate, and you guys will stay mates for however long if you guys have a healthy relationship. And a healthy relationship is all about communicating everything that you're thinking, right? So in that moment, I personally think it would be good to, you know, take your friend to a side and say, hey, look, you know, you brought your friend along. I feel like she's uncomfortable because we're not interacting. Do you mind?
Yeah, and I kind of feel uncomfortable interacting with her
because of the past
experience. Yeah.
And I think personally think that would have actually made you and your friend closer.
Yeah.
You actually were open about it.
Yeah, that's actually really good advice. Yeah, it's just because we only had that one conversation afterwards of like that past experience just to confirm it, and we didn't really talk about it ever again. So that was kind of still like in my mind.
No, so to me,
it's just some like loose end that wasn't tied.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. It wasn't like fully 100%.
Yeah, it wasn't fully 100% tied, and it's like the culture of the boys. Sometimes we like banter about it.
I've had that kind of experience.
Yeah, like we banter about it, and like obviously, like banter is like fun and all, but I always go by this thing, man. Like every joke and every meme, there's some truth to it. That's why the joke is like valid. That's why the joke is funny in the first place, because it's like a little bit of truth, man. So yeah, but that's great advice, man. I should have put him aside and talked about it.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. Did you end up doing that?
Like, so afterwards, yeah, we had a talk about it after. Like, he told me like basically she was just really upset, and then we had a conversation about it and was just like, yeah, like this whole culture just needs to be changed, and
So what did he say about it? Like the fact that obviously. It wasn't just you then, I take it, that was kind of giving her the cold shoulder?
Yeah, it was like other people kind of giving her the cold shoulder, but I was kind of the main one. Like, she like mentioned me the main one because she was kind of next to me as well.
Oh,
like
okay,
yeah.
I want to talk to you.
Yeah. So like she's next to me, and like the person next to you doesn't talk to you. That's like kind of rude. And the thing is, since I'm like a fairly like interactive person, she saw me interacting with everyone else. Yeah, I was saying, "Oh, hey, how's it going?"
That's
like
a player move, you know that.
No. I'm just like I just want to make like people feel good. So like for me, I let my assumptions take over like what I truly am. So even though that wasn't my true intentions, but like the results like. Because they didn't like reflect upon that, and that made me like quite upset.
So that was basically like a conflict of values.
Right? Yeah, conflict of values.
So like obviously it's like you had your friendship on one hand and stuff like that, but then your other values is basically being like authentic and real and being kind and stuff. And so you kind of had a clash because obviously you had a past experience where you kind of with that friend you kind of I don't want to put a meme, but you kind of like took your other values, your own personal values of like, oh, I want to go meet this person, whatever, end up, getting with his ex or whatever, right? And so I guess this time you wanted to make that right by not doing that again.
Yeah, you just didn't want to make that same mistake.
Because the thing is, in that night conversation, I did like say, oh, I promise, like I'll never do that again, and I want to keep it, and I want to change because that's the whole point of like having experience, reflect upon it, and now it's time for me to show action. And unfortunately, me showing that action was based upon a lot of assumptions, and people was hurt, and like the girl that was there that night was hurt.
Exactly. Like I think the main thing is you had to. My personal opinion, I'll just say that is, you used that assumption, and you kind of went one way with your values, right? The other time you went one way with your values as well, took it personal. And then the other one, this time anyway, you took your other values like more in line, which was your friendship, and you went like all the other way and like excluded her.
I was kind of like, oh, like I don't really care if I'm like a bad person.
Exactly.
I just want to like make him feel good. But the thing is, it's just like I don't care that she looks at me like badly, but I do care
if your friend looks at you.
No. If I wasn't doing the right thing and like making people feel comfortable and like.
Would you say in that moment? So you're in a situation, right? You want to make sure the situation is comfortable for her, for your friend, and for the surroundings.
And there's always a way.
There's always a way to make sure that the environment is comfortable, but you acted in a way based on the assumptions, thinking if I do this, the environment might get disturbed. My relationship with someone might get disturbed. So it's better to not do what I normally do, which is interact with everyone in general and be open about who I am and whatnot. And I'll just let the environment be as it is, and just because let's just enjoy the night as it is.
Okay.
And I don't need to disturb it by doing other things. Would you say that?
Mm,
Subconsciously, you're trying to make sure the
I
environment.
don't 100% fully agree with that, Fahad. I do agree with your advice before, though.
No, I'm that's what I'm asking. Is it based on, you know, sometimes for me, let's say, I like to keep the environment kind of peaceful, calm, without disturbing it too much.
I'm not saying that I'll be disturbing it, because I was just like checking up on like people. That's the whole point of having a dinner with friends, you know. Having food is one, but I think the second thing is just to being able to like check up on them and see how they're like going and stuff. And I wasn't really doing that to the new friend that was like in the group because of my, you know, my past experience with other close friends.
So you would like just not doing that just to make sure that you don't disturb that relationship with your friend.
Yeah.
You didn't want to disturb the environment per se. You didn't want to disturb your relationship. Kind of thing. You just wanted.
I wouldn't say environment. I would say relationship.
That's true.
Yeah, I'll say this as well though. Like what you did isn't wrong, obviously. Like the fact that you chose your friend. No. Well, okay. Well, when I say that is, I'm talking about just like take the whole thing out of it, right? Just the equation itself. So the fact that you took your friend's side over like, you know, doing something else or whatever. So it's kind of like I said, a conflict of values, right? But you chose your friend, right?
Yeah.
And at certain times, that's okay. If there's some stuff that like is like conflicting values for yourself, but your friend is like, you know, is the other side, there's no reason not to like take your friend's side, right? So let's say, obviously there's a line there, right? Let's say like, you know, I don't believe something's right, but Fahad believes it's right? And it's like it's something to do with him personally. Right? I would take that L and I'll just be like, I don't 100% agree with it, but because it's you and kind of like a bit concerned with you, whatever, I'll just roll with it, right? But then there's obviously a certain line you should go to, right? I'll put it in like in extreme terms, right?
Okay,
just so it's easier to understand. If your friend, right, is like let's say he just go like, you know, he's just going, you guys are going at whatever on one night, right? And he punches an old man in like in the face or something, right?
That's the old.
Just to give you an example.
That's the old.
Like okay, not even old, right? Let's
stick to the story.
He punches an old man in the face, right?
Is he wrinkly?
Don't worry about that. You're not gonna be like, oh man, he deserved it, right? Like that's one thing, right? But then if obviously somebody else is like coming up to him and like or maybe okay, some people just coming up to him, whatever, and then kind of get into like the argument, whatever. Then like your friend hits him. In that sense, I'd take my friend's side, right? Even though like you shouldn't be fighting over an argument, whatever, I still take my friend's side. But obviously, punching an old man in the face, that's where I draw the line.
I guess what you're trying to say here is that, you know, he just went and punched a random man in the face for no reason, and he's just like, because I felt like it. At that point, you know, in the second,
there's two things. Where it's friendship, because he's your friend, and the other thing is where he basically just punched an elderly person in the face.
In the sense that you don't support those values that are completely against yours. You know what I mean? Like you don't.
There's a line.
There's a line that you say, okay, it's okay that, in the sense that as long as they don't contradict your values and beliefs
too much.
In general, in general, I think as long if you believe in something, you should stand by it in general. You know, like I think we should always advise our friends advise anyone about things that we feel like they're doing wrong, and still be like, you know, this is what I personally think. But you're open to do whatever you want. I am telling you what I think. I'm telling you that I do not support you hitting an old man, right? And you should stand on that. You know, you don't. I support you hitting an old man because we're mates for 6 years. You know what I mean? Like you still stick by your values and you tell your friend that was wrong. I think, and that's what I think makes good friends as well. You know, and I think in those moments you have to stick by your beliefs, even if you have a lot of assumptions. Clarify the assumptions. Stick by your beliefs. Be yourself at all times. And like sometimes, you know, like I think with your one, right, with that situation where you're not talking to a mate, that's okay because it's not like something that contradicts your beliefs, in the sense that it's not something that makes you be a bad person or change. Like it doesn't contradict anything with you, in the sense that it's okay. It's like a gray line. You know, you're okay to not talk to someone
it's very subtle. That's the thing with that one.
You know what I mean? Like
it's not. You're not like 100% telling the person yo, go stuff yourself, right?
Yeah, like
You're kind of just like ignoring them.
Yeah, I was kind of like you know how like when you usually have a conversation, you usually expand on stuff and stuff. But I was like really like
One
one
word.
line, one word.
Like, how are you?
Kind of like moving
Good.
on. Yeah.
But in that moment, it was that gray area where you're happy to. Did the light just go out? It's crazy. This is our studio, guys. Sometimes our light goes out. Sometimes we sit in the floor like this. Sometimes we
Very high budget.
This is really good. You know, this is top-notch quality. $1 million mic, $1 million laptops. Hope you guys can donate and fund us for better content. But
Hey man, you don't need to donate. Actually, you can watch this for free. You know?
For free. But then donate. I can give you my BSB account number. Yeah, where was I? Oh, yeah. What I was saying is that, you know, in that moment, you just felt like your values were to make sure your relationship with your friend was maintained, and you did not disturb that. That was your value, and you stuck to it. If your mate said, "Look, I do not want you to talk to her, because you know this is what I feel like is right," I think for you, what would be right to say, "Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
This is your friend.
Yeah.
This is what you want me to do. I'm happy to not interact."
No,
right?
yeah. But the issue I find was just like the whole assumption thing. I should have had that conversation in the first place. Yeah, so like that was like very good advice.
So the communication part, that's the thing. So like I just want to cover it quickly, but my thing is, why didn't you go and like talk to him, like to just like communicate? That's the thing. I don't know if there's a big reason behind it all.
Because this is the main topic of like the whole podcast assumption. I just assumed.
Oh, you
I just ran through like a simulation in my head and just be like, oh, he probably doesn't want me to talk to her. This is probably the most likely outcome.
So you already had the conversation in your head, basically, and then you just like
not a conversation, but I ran through like a scenario.
It was that subconscious pattern in your head. That said,
it was kind of like a conscious thought as well. Like I consciously thought about it. It was like, oh, you know what? It's better off that I don't get too close to her in case like he thinks of anything. And you know, I just don't want even like the slightest chance.
So you don't want to put that idea in his head.
Yeah. Like no ideas. Like, you know.
Okay, I get that.
And I think that's completely fine. But I think we should never leave our assumptions to be assumptions, in the sense that it's a broad topic, in the sense that this topic of assumption isn't really just limited to that experience.
Yeah.
It's based on a lot of things that I think a lot of people are born into. Let's say for me, born into faith, right? Born into Islam. Some people are born into Christianity, and some of these people live a huge part of their lives assuming that they're on the right faith, on the right beliefs, without actually confirming those beliefs, right? I think we should always acknowledge that we've assumed this is right, we've assumed that is wrong, but we've never actually taken the steps to confirm our beliefs, right?
Yeah.
And I think whenever we consciously acknowledge the fact that we're making an assumption here, we should see if we can confirm it and affirm those beliefs, right? And I think when you start to do that, you actually understand the situation and the reality that you're living in way better than you know, just letting your mind do things. Because in the end of the day, you control the mind, and by knowing what your mind's doing, you can then see the reality as it is. You know,
because it's like it's just so easy to like have like a conversation. Even though sometimes it could be hard, it's just like effort and stuff. But you know, you just have to put in these like, you know, like effort.
I do think aside from that, there's that assumption thing. But then also sometimes wanting to clarify those assumptions can be a challenge itself. You know, some people don't want to actually have that conversation with a friend.
No, it's like he said. Basically, you didn't want to even put that idea in his head, because like if you went up to him and then said, "Oh, by the way, should I like not talk to your friend, whatever, because you like her, and then she's interested in me?" Obviously, then that kind of puts the idea that maybe you might try to go for her or something, right? Or like the guy might start to think like that.
Yeah, that's not 100% true, but like the main reason that I didn't talk to him was just like, oh, like in my head it was just confirmed.
100%.
Like this is 100%. You know, he most likely like doesn't want me to talk to her. So like, what's the point of having this conversation? And
where I was getting at is that, you know, sometimes even if you've confirmed that assumption in your head, sometimes you just don't want to even have that conversation because you're just so solid founded in the sense that what's the point? I already know what the answer's going to be. You know what I mean? Like you've already kind of said to yourself, I already know how they're going to react.
Yeah.
And sometimes some people, let's say, talk about, your beliefs and stuff. People don't go out and even actively kind of affirm their beliefs because they so confidently believe that they're right. So
Yeah.
like, what's the point of me eating to do this? This is a waste of my time.
Actually, to put it on something more like relatable to everyone, I'd say it's like, okay, for me anyway, I don't know if it's a strict parent thing or just like a parent thing in general, but if I want to go out somewhere, something like that, like I have to ask my parents sometimes, right? And sometimes I don't bother asking them because I already assume they're going to say no. I don't know if that's for you, but it's like...
For me, it's not about it's not about going out, but for me, it was like when I changed my degree from sports science to nursing. In my head, I already assumed the worst. I was just like, oh, like they'll be really upset.
Exactly.
I like might be grounded or like some extreme. But when I talk to them, they're like, oh, like we support you. You know, if you feel like this is the right path for you.
There was a saying that I read somewhere or heard somewhere. Hope for the best, expect the worst. No. Oh, I forgot the quote actually. Ignore it.
No, you're right.
It was not. Hope for the best. Hope for the best. Or expect the worst, then don't get hope for the best, expect the worst, and don't get surprised in between. You know what I mean? So you expect the worst is going to happen, but you hope for the best to happen.
Yeah.
So your brain's kind of already prepared for both. And then, just not get surprised in between. And because that's how life is. Sometimes you get answers that you don't like.
Yeah.
And I think we have to be prepared for that because that's how life is.
Yeah. I think the human nature is people are kind of afraid of like confrontation.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. As hard as it is, or as much as you've like done it and like try to like confront like people, at the end of the day, I think it's just human nature that we kind of shy away from it. So I feel like we have to actively like practice and like just like do it.
Yeah. I like this episode, to be honest. I didn't really read out of my notes. So we had somewhat of a topic. Yeah. We prepared a little bit. I found it authentic. I think this is something that we can still put out there. I do think next time maybe we should have a more, I guess,
like more structured
talk. I think
a little bit more research.
Yeah. I think we covered a lot of things today, but I think those things that we covered today can be 20-minute conversations in themselves.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's because I like today anyway. I find that it was best to just have like a normal conversation, right? And that's what it was.
Yeah.
Me and you just like this, like all of us anyway, just having a talk. That's it. Like, to be honest with this, there's some stuff which you don't need too much research for. Obviously, if you have some kind of stuff which you've kind of gone through, you just speak on your experiences. That's what I believe anyway. But obviously there's times when you do need to do research. And maybe that's probably
I think the research in the sense that it helps you structure your own thoughts. You know what I mean? Like with me and you, us three, right? In general, we can have this conversation go on for hours and hours, and we won't get onto what we wanted to say 2 hours later because it comes 2 hours later. But to constantly think about it for like a week or so, we know what we want to say somewhat, and then we can converse on that dot point, on that thing that we want to say. But as long as we're still conversing,
it's like as fun as we have these conversations. This podcast is for me, like for us to learn, and like for you guys like listening and like take something away from it as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And if they can relate, it's a good thing. And if you found humor in it, it's a good thing. I am actually considering, like, since the light went away and you're sitting right next to the light, I don't know if they can see you, man.
Well, like the thing is, this is like your guys' first time, like
this is our first time. There's got to be flaws.
It's got to be better, guys.
There's got to be flaws in it.
It's the first time you guys
see how it goes.
If you set the bar low, it means that we'll improve.
There's room for improvement.
If we expect one like, right? If we get two, that's all we need, right?
I think we've concluded it for the day. Thank you everyone for listening in. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys liked the content in it. Hope to see you again probably 2 weeks from now, where we bring in another guest. Same type of scenario, same type of room. Tea in our hands, mint in our see how it goes.
Nice tea. And like thanks boys for like inviting me on. It's like a pleasure to be like the first guest.
You're gonna be on again, don't worry.
Oh, actually, if you guys like it, Yeah, I
Like,
could be on like the Game Boy. Yeah.
Because the thing is, we've learned a lot from other people as well.
Yeah.
You just came on, you taught me something about assumptions and stuff,
Mhm.
and that's true. But it's about reflecting upon those experiences.
Yeah.
Because his experiences, his lessons that he's learned can be the same as mine,
Mhm.
but they come from a different experience.
Yes.
And that's always a great conversation.
Mhm.
How you came to the same conclusion that I did,
Or different conclusions.
or a different
Yeah.
conclusion, and maybe you went through different experiences or the same experience but came to different conclusions. And it's
Yeah.
always it's interesting conversation.
Yeah, it's just like, even though I've reflected on this experience like before already, it was I had more time to reflect on it, because when Farhad called me, it was like, oh, okay, Ambrose, come on this podcast and talk about it. It means I had to think about it again, and that gave me like more points,
Exactly,
like,
yeah.
to talk about, and like more to learn like from this experience.
See, the same thing I've learned as well, basically.
Yeah.
But
It's a good thing. We should end the podcast.
I want to say there's one person
Alright,
who
so
I want
let's-
who I want to come on, and then I want to have a conversation with that person.
Look,
I
whoever
just
does
call
listen,
them out right now.
Man, it starts with a T. He knows who he is, bro.
yeah.
Alright, Aaron, come on, you're next, mate.
Hey, well, I'm gonna end the podcast. I think people have had enough of us for some reason. A lot of content for today. Thank
Alright.
you again. Hope to see you guys again soon.